So in my Jiren versus Superman video with Super Saiyan Ryu, we talked about Jiren versus Superman, and we went over the concept of Jiren possibly surpassing time. Now, this was the day that the episode came out. I uploaded it in the morning, and obviously it came out that afternoon, so I didn't have that, information. But, Ryu, on the other hand, he was like, it's kind of a little bit wonky to say they surpassed time, and I'm like, you know what? If they surpass time, it makes sense. I've been arguing Goku's been 4D for a long time, and I did drop my arguments in that video why they would be beyond time regardless, if they said it in this episode or not. But they did say some stuff in this episode that kind of confirmed everything I've been saying. So let's just go over everything in this episode. Leave a like for my boy Jiren. I'm going to be doing more videos on this in the future, obviously, and I do have some videos on dimensional tiering that's probably going to come out soon after this to explain in more detail what these feats and scalings mean. So the episode starts out with Frieza giving Goku energy in like a really dramatic way. It looks like he blasted him. This allows Goku to move around, but doesn't even give him enough energy to go Super Saiyan. Spoilers for the future. It's not that big a deal, though. But it's some interesting development on Frieza's part. Frieza also admits Jiren is somebody he wants to avoid, obviously confirming that Jiren is probably above him, but who really thought differently anyway? Jiren and Hit then start going at it, and Jiren just starts slapping around, but Hit does get a lot of praise from Toppo and Zeno. Zeno states he's strong, and Toppo says, I can't believe he's doing so well. And in all honesty, he just puts up a better fight than Kaioken times 20 Goku did in the end. I mean, albeit with hacks and not raw power. Hit then starts to swap dimensions on Jiren, but Jiren is pretty much so overpowered in this tournament that he can sense Hit inside another dimension. Even Champa is shook and can't explain how he's doing it. Even Vados says his strength is frightening. So this kind of, a little bit more confirmation that, Jiren's above God of Destruction level. I'll go into more detail about what this means as well later. And although Hit keeps getting battered around, it should be noted Hit is able to dent Jiren at one point and is able to take punches. This basically proves that with hacks, Hit's power can hit infinite 3D levels, strong enough to even dent Jiren. Reminder that even when like super suppressed versus Blue Goku, he shook infinity by simply flexing. Kabe also noted that Hit can block him effectively and can take hits. Also, Vegeta proves once again that Rebrand isn't even base Saiyan beyond God level and gets thrashed. I don't know why she keeps appearing in the show. She's even irrelevant when she's Super Rebrand, and she's getting more screen time than Gohan and Piccolo at this point. And it's like, why? Like, what purpose does she play in this show that's so pivotal? Is she gonna play like I really just need to see her get ringed out. For the love of God, I need to gif it and post it on Twitter immediately. Hit then scores a critical hit on Jiren, like I said before, and launches him back. Jiren quickly gets rid of the damage, which may imply possible minor regeneration hacks. And Hit puts him in what he calls a cage of time, in which Hit freezes his opponent in a time skip or time. Hit also shows some character development here when he calls for the assistance of the other Saiyans to win and survive the tournament. Jiren then starts marching while frozen in time, and this is where things get crazy. Hit comes at the slowed down Jiren with a time skip Rasengan looking thing, and Jiren stops Hit by looking at him, grabs the Rasengan and snaps it with his hand and says, "What rubbish." And it was absolutely insane. Vados then goes on to say Jiren is far beyond comprehension and transcends time itself. Just like I said he did the second Goku went Ultra Instinct, and everyone was, yelling at me about it. But, here we are. Now I'm going to go into detail about what this objectively means. I'm going to prove once and for all my stance and prove its objective. In my Jiren vs Superman video, I went over numerous reasons why Jiren clearly transcends time, despite, it wasn't being stated in this, it wasn't stated in this episode yet, and reaches 4D, fourth dimensional, despite people telling me he doesn't. And this lays it flat on the table in my favor, or our favor if you agree with me. Jiren, by scaling, impressed and scared Beerus even more than Infinite Zamasu. Infinite Zamasu being the guy that fused with time-space itself and warped the past and was going to absorb the entire multiverse. Jiren scares Beerus more than that. And yes, Beerus and Whis both sense Zamasu, and they're like, ooh, man, that's unfortunate. You know, like, that sounds evil. But with Jiren, they were crapping themselves. So it's very clear Jiren is above that infinite Zamasu. Also, I'm adding this in post-recording. Apologies, I should have thought of this when I first did it. But it should also be noted that the Supreme Kai also states that Jiren is different, way different than anybody they've ever fought before. And this is very important because it does exclaim that it also is basically proof that Jiren is stronger despite, you know, Beerus. And some people were like, oh, you know, he's just saying he's different. But that's not true at all, because right after he says that he's different, he also says he's strong, plain and simple. So he's referring to strength when he's talking about different. And Whis also goes on to talk about Jiren's strength and how it possibly surpasses a god of destruction, and then says there's a mortal, you know, a god of destruction cannot defeat. It seems like this rumor is true. So yes, the Supreme Kai also backs up that Jiren is beyond Infinite Zamasu, and yes, the Supreme Kai was right there when Infinite Zamasu was fusing with everything, and when Gawasu was literally yelling in his face, he's fusing with the universe, you know? So yes, the Supreme Kai is fully aware of, you know, the Infinite Zamasu, and he is aware that he just stated Jiren is different than anything they faced before. Jiren also shook an infinite void of nothing without trying, literally just by appearing and flexing, just like Ultra Instinct Goku, which in lore has no space or time. Now, even though it having no space is kind of subjective, doing to have infinite distance, and to have infinite distance you have to have space, but it should be noted that for Jiren's power to shake a realm with no time and move itself, it would have to transcend time. This is backed up by numerous showings, statements, and scaling by this point. Jiren is on a completely different level, and everyone agrees. I'll say it one last time. Jiren and Ultra Instinct Goku are fourth dimensional objectively. Whether their existence is three-dimensional and they have fourth dimensional powers, I don't care how you concede to it. They have fourth dimensional power. Period. They're beyond the scope of 3D powers. Infinite 3D powers simply cannot replicate what they are doing and being stated to be capable of. Now, for many people that are wondering, why is 4D such a big deal? What is 4D? I might as well explain the gist of it. I'll give you a brief overview of what it means. Say you have a straight line. Okay, you have a straight line goes from point A to point B. It's a ray, basically. Just goes infinitely in one direction, just one dimensional. A single line going on for an infinity. And then you take this line that has only infinite length and no width, and you put it on a two-dimensional platform, a platform that measures length and width. Say you compare this infinite length to an infinite square in a two-dimensional plane. This line will simply not exist in this two-dimensional plane because it has no width. Basically, since one of its stats are 0 and it has no width, it cannot exist in the two-dimensional realm. Similarly, if something came into the real 3D world, right, and say it had infinite length and width, but no depth, then because it has no depth, it doesn't exist. So this infinite 2D object does not exist in the 3D world. So, and then say you take Jiren and Goku, right? Say that they shook infinity. Now, they would have infinite 3D power, and possibly 4D if you take the examples I gave earlier, but ignore that. Say they only have 3D power. That would mean that if a being that's fourth dimensional came in, they would basically be non-existent in comparison to a 4D being. And this is a big deal because this proves they are essentially infinitely stronger than people were giving them credit for. And a fourth dimensional being in fiction, what people are referring to is basically the ability to destroy or recreate an infinite fourth dimensional universe. Now, the fourth dimension, you know, like I said, with 3D, it's like length, width, and depth. The fourth dimension is time, and this is stated by a lot of people. The fourth dimension is generally accepted as time. So, to destroy an infinite fourth dimensional universe, or even like a static universe, you would have to be fourth dimensional because you would be destroying infinite time-space. And to do that, you simply cannot be infinitely 3D, or else you're ignoring the concept of time, so you aren't completely destroying it. So that's why this is such a big deal in fiction, and proving that these characters are fourth dimensional and they aren't just, you know, they don't destroy all the matter in the universe. They're actually destroying the actual universe itself. Anyway, continuing on. Jiren basically pulls a Storm 4 ultimate attack he uses on Kale, and Hit is out of the ring. The simple force of Hit flying by is so intense, Kaba, he can't even stand straight. Hit at this point gets obliterated now that Jiren is trying a bit harder, probably because he got, you know, frozen in time and had to flex. But he did a good job despite what people say. I'd argue he objectively pushed Jiren harder than Kaioken times 20 Goku, like I said before. Vermod once again confirms nobody can beat Hit, and we get some good development with Champa saying, you know, Hit did a good job. Hit even thought it was over the second Jiren moved out of the time skip. The Grand Priest then also pulls an interesting feat where he casually warps the color of the world of Void to be green, further proving he can manipulate it with no effort. Jiren then goes to sleep after staring Goku in the eye and saying everyone he's needed for is gone. Whether this is due to him being fatigued or not having Ultra Instinct is debatable. Jiren also completely negs the no-fly rule as he begins floating while meditating, once again proving he's above the rules set on the ring. And which is not far-fetched considering, you know, he's kind of, you know, above infinity and time at this point, and that's kind of normal. And it kind of coincides with what I said before, that they can break the rules the angels put on them if they are strong enough, like the, you know, Whis and Vados's barrier, or, you know, Grand Priest saying you can't fly. Obviously, if you're more powerful than that, you can surpass it. Now, it doesn't prove that Jiren's stronger than an angel, but it is something to consider. Like, he is breaking rules that he thought the Grand Priest would not, the Grand Priest didn't think they were going to surpass this point, so that is pretty interesting. Also, a lot of people were trying to say that Jiren is now 5D. I think 5D is kind of a stretch. Now, we do know, for example, that Zeno, there's multiple versions of him. He's clearly, his existence itself seems to be somewhat etched into time. Now, obviously, Jiren's state to transcend time, but it should be noted that 5D is a massive, massive jump. Basically, it's infinitely stronger than, like, the God Gokus we've been seeing, or Ultra Instincts we've been seeing so far. It just seems really out there. I'm not gonna say you're wrong. Feel free to disagree with me, but for now, fourth dimensional is a fact. It is accepted. It is basically how powerful they are for now. And this also would coincide with all the Gods of Destruction as well. The Gods of Destruction should scale to that to a certain degree. However, it does seem like the Gods of Destruction are kind of crapping themselves once again that Jiren is above time. Although there is an example with Beerus, that Beerus, like I said earlier, he was confident in his ability to kind of take out Zamasu despite sensing him take over space and time. So that would argue that Beerus is kind of on that 4D level as well. And I would argue that all the gods are basically on that level simply due to the fact that even God Goku is going to annihilate an endless time-space. As stated in the Daizenshu, the universe is endless, at least in its own realm. They're going to annihilate it as gods. So it kind of does prove, you know, maybe they are 4D. Also, I do think this is appropriate time to argue that Jiren has immeasurable speed. So basically what's happening in the community is that people have accepted that Jiren has fourth dimensional power. It's basically a fact at this point. It's objective. But however, people are still arguing against his speed. They said, yeah, maybe he might be, but his speed is probably still just much faster than light. However, I have to firmly disagree with this because Ki amplifies all stats in Dragon Ball. The higher your Ki, the higher all your stats. Your Ki is what, you know, affects your attack potency. It's what affects your durability. It's what affects your speed. This is shown with Kaioken times whatever Goku very clearly, or even the Super Saiyan forms. It basically multiplies all your stats the same way. Kaioken times 2 is twice as much power, twice as much speed, twice as much power level, right? So it's very clear that Ki amplifies all stats. If Jiren has enough power to shake infinity, then he would have a Ki that's on an infinite level to amp his speed as well. So yes, Jiren would most likely have an infinite level of speed. There are levels of infinity. I'm not saying Jiren solos every character in fiction. There are characters above Jiren, okay? But he does have infinite speed. Now, whether this is immeasurable or not is kind of up for debate. I mean, infinity is immeasurable. And if he does transcend time, it could possibly be immeasurable. But I just wanted to say that, yes, he is beyond much faster than light years. He is at least a level of infinity, even for speed. And I do know a lot of people were trying to disagree with that, which doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, if you accept he's at one level of infinity, that's just how Dragon Ball works. All stats go up, including even Hack's resistance, which some people were arguing. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed and want more. Until next time.